Welcome to another edition of Context is King. I'm Eric. Joining me, as always, Mr. Ash. How
Also known as Bob Guccione Jr. No,
right, so what's this?
Yeah, randomly last night I posted a question on LinkedIn, like if you could own any kind of traditional, venerable brand, which one would it be to transform it? And of all people, Bob Guccione Jr.,
Spin Magazine.
Founder of Spin Magazine.
Son of?
I guess senior.
Who was the Penthouse guy?
Yeah, no, the Penthouse guy, yeah, not the Hustler guy, that's Larry Flint. But what's really fascinating is we don't have in one of the rooms there, like we have magazines and books in many areas, but I walk into one of our rooms, the Matrix room, where there's rarely any magazines right there on the table. This is like a few minutes after Bob Guccione posts that, Spin Magazine.
Look at that. And you know what? There's I never noticed the resemblance between Blackie Francis and you. That's pretty good.
Just the bizarre world. And the
Frank
thing that you can't, kids these days, I walk into then the other room where like most of the team is, and I tell them the story, blasé. I'm like, I gotta pull a rabbit out of my butt for you guys to be impressed. What's wrong with kids
Well, that's
these days?
because Bob Guccione, that song that was on
Get in the Ring.
Illusion 2.
The Blue Album, Get in the Ring.
1990?
Yeah, probably. 91 was when it was really popular. Yeah, Bob Guccione Jr., what are you so pissed off that your dad gets more beep than you? Get in the ring. And then the funny thing is Bob Guccione, who did like, he was a fighter, I don't know if martial arts or boxer or whatever. He was like, okay, Axel, I'm gonna send you a letter. Let's get in the ring, name the time and place, and obviously Axl Rose disappeared. MIA. All right, let's get the show on the road.
Okay, so we're talking Trivia HQ because...
What's the segue there? Traditional to brand new media.
Okay,
Jeopardy,
I like it.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, HQ Trivia.
Right, so they just got their first big sponsor.
Yes, so HQ Trivia, to those who don't know, launched last August as an iPhone app. 12 questions, you get 10 seconds to answer each question.
Huge phenomenon.
Huge phenomenon. I mean, it kind of blew up, then it went quiet, but I feel now actually the hype has kind of subsisted a bit and they're actually trying to build a business. They raised $15 million. Basically, the Vine co-founders sold Vine to Twitter. Twitter killed it. Russ Yusupov and Colin Kroll. They launched Intermedia Labs, and they launched this thing called Hype, which is basically a Peristalk-style app for mobile social live streaming. What's interesting, though, is like that they realized that, hey, game show formats are getting the most engagement. And I always said from day one that the game show to them, these guys weren't like growing up like, oh, as a child I watched Jeopardy, Price is Right.
Which I did.
Ironically, we all did, Family Feud and all that. But I don't think they were so much passionate about the game show and the trivia. I think they viewed that as a means to an end, where a lot of tech guys are like that, right? They just want to make cool stuff and hack into elections, so to speak, and then they build stuff, and then they realize there's an application. So they realized that like the whole trivia game show format was driving a lot of engagement, and then they basically pivoted to focus on HQ Trivia.
Found themselves a good host, too.
Sorry?
They found themselves a good host.
Yes, Bob Guccione. No, I'm kidding. Scott Rogowski, who is on one of our colleagues, Brooklyn baseball team. Very small world. Very small world. Yeah. I mean, Bob Guccione replies to my LinkedIn questions.
The world is a tiny place.
Scott Rogowski plays shortstop for the Brooklyn Bombers, whatever their team is. Yeah, it's great. But look, it just goes to show how random startups and entrepreneurship is.
Because who could have predicted that this, of all the different mobile apps out there, of all the different trivia games, why did this one work?
So this is actually interesting because we, for 10 years, had trivia the same way that we have the Suggest tool, the same way that we have This Day in Video, which most of you probably don't even know because you're just watching the videos. We also had trivia. We focused a bit too much, I think, on trying to tie questions to
our lists,
videos,
right,
because we were using them, and educational companies were using them to teach English and whatnot. But
Well, last year we branched out and went and made our own trivia game.
Yeah, it was actually to show. Yeah, I mean, for us having these top 10 lists, we focused on three things. Basically, coming up with top 10 lists, the banter that goes, who's the greatest, who's better, LeBron or Michael Jordan, who's going to be number one on the top 10 greatest basketball players. So you had like, two teams of two duking it out, coming up with the ultimate list, and then getting fans to kind of vote for it. And then third, but not last but not least, we had like the fantasy draft aspect where you had all these players in a pool. But no, it goes to show to you two things. Now, for us, being a web content company, we wanted to produce something more polished. So we purposely, in our talks with traditional media, whether it's ironically, the Warner Brothers of the world that are now sponsoring the show, we wanted to showcase like, oh look, something that's actually shot in studio. But two things well, many things are fantastic story, HQ Trivia, but two things that I find are really important. Scott Rogowski, not a knock against him, but a fairly relative unknown. Like when he started,
completely
he was
unknown.
Completely unknown. There you go. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't go out and get Joe Trebek. It was
they didn't get Alec Baldwin for that matter.
They didn't even get Skippy Baldwin. And then the most interesting thing, which goes back to the web, is the guests are beyond unknowns. It's the user. It's the internet. And I think the main takeaway, and this is the main takeaway, is this isn't really an execution in game show or trivia. What they nailed, and they deserve all the credit in the world, is live concurrent players. If you think about it, if we would have been forced gun to our head to do something like this, and there's a lot of channels, there's a lot of companies. Back in 2013, there was a company called QuizUp. QuizUp launched. They actually did really, really well. Like many other startups that raised capital, they raised a bunch of money from, I think 25 million from Sequoia. They are known for having invested in Apple as well as Google. Then they pivoted to become a community. Bit random. It was like, forget trivia.
Why would they do that?
Like, oh, if we're doing a question on skyscrapers and we both answer skyscraper-related questions, we love skyscrapers. So this was at a time when community startups were getting a premium. But it all goes to show these guys, like if we would have had to be forced to come up, we would have done something around YouTube. And frankly, we're not alone. There's thousands of companies that are thinking of trivia. Our content being factual and infotainment, there is that kind of objective research driven that like we and a million other companies are going to be like sheep following in the space. And if you think about it, there wasn't just Jeopardy, there wasn't just Price is Right. There'll be more and more trivia, there'll be more and more game shows. But I think for us, we would want to play to our strength, which would be more YouTube. What's genius about what they did is this concept of, first of all, it was in an app, it was in the open web, and two, it was all about live concurrent. That's really the key ingredient, where like at 9 p.m. you feel inclined to get on and play. Now the funny thing is, I don't play, but I totally understand why it's so addictive.
But does it eat, I mean, as an entrepreneur, does it eat away at you a little bit that this is not your,
I swear,
damn, I wish I'd come up with that?
No, because you can't be a greedy son of a beep. That's why entrepreneurs are full of shit. And that's why entrepreneurs are so hated by so many people, because a lot of entrepreneurs think that they have this God-given right and a monopoly on all ideas, and not just entrepreneurs, business people. Like Facebooks and Googles, all these companies, and Apple, they sometimes feel like they have a monopoly on all ideas. The same way that, like I say, we didn't invent top 10s, we just made it better. People before us attempted to do top 10s. Go all the way back to Moses, the 10 Commandments. So absolutely not. I think it's great. I sometimes hold back when we talk about trivia, to be candid. I hold back on being super harsh on ourselves, i.e. myself or the team, because I don't want people to think, like, you did a great job producing it, but for us it was an afterthought, it was a pilot, because we wanted to pitch it to like other companies to say, hey, we could partner together. What I use it more of is motivation, to say, look, they thought of this in a very different way. They executed, they focused. And I think ultimately it is also a testament to focus. If we or any company, if you want to do 5 things at once, you're probably not going to do any of them well. These guys bet the farm. They put a bunch of sticks in the fire through Intermedia Labs. Once they saw something take off, they focused on it. And as a real entrepreneur, you love to see other people. I once heard an expression, somebody else said it, maybe Axl Rose, maybe Bob Guccione. It's a bit crude. But he goes, success is a little bit like farts. And I was like, oh God, where's this going? And they said, only other people's upsets you.
There's nothing I can say. Yeah, I think on that note, what else? What else can I say?
You go after that, yeah.
Context is king.
There you go. You really need to know the context of that saying. Otherwise, you're like, whoa. Please don't use that as a soundbite.
Thanks for
tuning in. Don't put that on my tombstone. That's all I ask.
Let us know what you think, and we'll I don't even know.